The Crimson Tide, an empire of smoke and silver. Prologue, the Celestial Kingdom. For centuries, the Middle Kingdom slept beneath a silken quilt of ancient tradition, believing itself the center of the civilized world. The emperor in his forbidden city in Peking was the son of heaven, and the barbarians from across the sea were merely pesky gnats, tolerated only at the southern port of Canton. Here, under strict supervision, they could trade for the one thing the West craved above all else: tea. Mountains of fragrant tea leaves sailed for London, creating a desperate problem for the British Empire. Its silver was hemorrhaging into China's coffers. The balance of trade was a gaping wound, and the British were determined to find a plug. The serpent's remedy, opium. That plug was a sinister, sticky resin. The British East India Company, the rapacious tentacle of British commerce, cultivated a solution in the poppy fields of Bengal. They would flood China with opium. This was no gentle medicine. It was a weaponized vice, a dragon in a clay pot. Smoked in the dim, hazy dens of Canton, it enslaved the mind and rotted the soul. Soon, a river of silver began to reverse its flow, now pouring out of China to pay for the very poison that was crippling its people, from lowly laborers to the emperor's own courtiers. The Daoguang emperor saw his nation turning into a ghostly parade of addicts. His finest official, the stern and principled Lin Zexu, was sent to Canton with an imperial mandate. The flow of opium must be stopped and the poison purged from the land. Act 1. The Commissioner's Gambit. The year is 1839. Commissioner Lin arrives not with bluster but with unyielding resolve. He delivers a letter to Queen Victoria, a masterpiece of moral appeal mixed with veiled threat, questioning how a civilized nation could traffic in such a pernicious article. But words were slow ships on a vast ocean. Lin acted. He surrounded the foreign factories, trapping the merchants inside, and demanded every last chest of opium. Under the sweltering South China sun, a monumental act of defiance unfolded. Lin Zexu did not sell the confiscated opium. He made a spectacle of its destruction. 20,000 chests, worth a king's ransom, were poured into specially dug trenches, mixed with salt and lime, and washed out to sea. The harbor waters turned a foul, murky brown. For Lin, it was a purification. For the British merchants, it was an act of theft. Their howls of outrage crossed the seas, reaching the ears of the British Foreign Secretary, Lord Palmerston. Palmerston, a man who believed the world was Britain's chessboard, saw not a moral crisis, but an opportunity. The Chinese had insulted the crown and destroyed private property. The drums of war began to beat. Act 2. The Iron Dragons arrive. In 1840, a terrifying fleet appeared on the horizon. They were not the junks the Chinese knew, but iron dragons belching black smoke. British steamships, impervious to wind and tide. Their cannons roared with a sound that cracked the sky, raining iron hell upon coastal forts built for a bygone era. The Chinese defenders, brave but armed with matchlocks and bamboo spears, were mown down like wheat. It was not a war. It was a brutal demonstration. The British Navy, a scalpel of immense power, sliced through China's defenses, blockading ports and sailing up the mighty Yangtze River, threatening the Grand Canal, the empire's vital artery. The Qing banners, once symbols of invincible Manchu power, were torn to shreds by shrapnel. The empire was helpless. By 1842, the war was over. The Chinese delegation was forced aboard a British warship, the HMS Cornwallis, anchored ominously on the Yangtze. There, in the belly of the beast, they signed the Treaty of Nanking. The treaty, the humiliation begins. The ink on the treaty was China's shame. It was a document drawn not in mutual respect, but in the gunpowder residue of defeat. Hong Kong Island was carved away, given to Britain as a crown jewel. 5 ports, including Shanghai, were wrenched open, becoming festering sores of foreign influence where Chinese law held no sway. Extraterritoriality meant a British murderer could not be tried by Chinese courts, and a colossal indemnity, a financial punishment, was levied, making China pay for the cost of its own beating. Act 3. The Poison Peace and the Second Bloodletting. The peace was a fragile truce. The Chinese seethed, their pride a festering wound. The British, addicted to the profits, wanted more ports, more access, the legalization of the opium trade itself. Tensions boiled over again in 1856 with a farcical pretext. The Chinese authorities boarded a Chinese-owned ship, the Arrow, which had once been registered in Hong Kong, and arrested its crew for piracy. The British flag, they claimed, had been disrespected. It was a thin excuse, but Palmerston, once again, needed no other. This time the British were not alone. They were joined by the French, eager for their own slice of the Qing melon. The Second Opium War was even more devastating. Allied armies marched on Peking itself. The climax of the conflict was an act of calculated cultural annihilation that shocked the world. The old summer palace, Yuan, a vast complex of palaces, pavilions and gardens filled with centuries of artistic treasures, lay undefended. Instead of destroying the Forbidden City, which would have humiliated the emperor directly, the British High Commissioner, Lord Elgin, made a different choice. He ordered the palace looted and then burned to the ground. For 3 days, the sky above Peking glowed an infernal orange. Soldiers stuffed their pockets with jade and gold, while masterpieces of porcelain and silk were smashed underfoot. The palace, a paradise on earth, was reduced to smoldering ash and shattered marble. It was a message written in fire. Your civilization is nothing before our power. Finale. The dynasty's death knell. In 1860, the Qing Empire, broken and bleeding, surrendered completely. The new treaties forced the legalization of opium, opened all of China to Christian missionaries, and ceded the Kowloon Peninsula to Britain. The Chinese court, now led by the emperor's brother, Prince Gong, was forced to establish a foreign office, finally acknowledging the barbarians as equals. The Son of Heaven's divine mandate was shattered. The Opium Wars did not end with a bang, but with a slow, poisonous seep. They forced an ancient and proud civilization onto its knees, exposing its weakness and triggering a century of humiliation, internal rebellion, and chaotic decline. The wars fatally wounded the Qing dynasty, a wound that would never heal, and set the stage for the revolutionary turmoil of the 20th century. The silver had stopped flowing, but in its place ran a far deeper and more dangerous current, a river of resentment, a crimson tide of national shame that would shape the destiny of China for generations to come.